Interesting conversation just took place on Pod TV here on the network, and that was on the Medicine and Science Show with Dr. Patmos. As you were talking about people that are a low percentage, but that have both male and female organs, but they do exist. I think he said about 2% of the population, and all along those lines. It was an interesting conversation that was going on that show. But right now, it's time for World Edition, and we'll be talking about what's taking place in the world and around the world and what stories are catching people's attentions and all along those lines, because definitely a lot is taking place as there are a number of news stories that are taking place, and people are paying attention to a number of these stories as they are happening and all along those lines. Of course, there's updates in the Iran war. Kuwait's airport attacked as fresh Iran U.S. strikes are straining the ceasefire and everything like that. So, U.S. ally Kuwait condemns brutal and ongoing Iranian attacks after airport was hit. So that is definitely something people are talking about as well. 11 officers were injured in the Henry Nowak murder protest in the UK, according to what police are reporting in that area and everything like that. So the prime minister accuses Farage of exploiting the Nowak case and denies two-tier policing claim. So the student murder sparked accusation UK police are biased against white victims. So that's something that's going on in the UK. A Ukraine drone hits St. Petersburg as economic forum starts. So Ukraine drones hit St. Petersburg before Putin's Davos opens. So Ukraine strikes St. Petersburg on the first day of a marquee Putin event. So definitely that is something going on as well. I guess there were a lot of people from around the world that were attending this particular economic forum, and the drones did hit St. Petersburg during that time. Albania's protest Jared Kushner's linked luxury resort project. So thousands protest in Albania against Jared Kushner's linked resort project. So that is definitely something that people are talking about as well. So that's definitely something that people are paying attention to. And Trump administration floats tariffs on 60 trading partners, including China, the UK, and the EU. So Trump administration proposed 10% tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and the EU over forced labor. So that's definitely something that folks are talking about as well. U.S. proposes a new 10% tariff on Canada, other countries, as Trump looks to rebuild the tariff wall. So that's definitely something that people are talking about as well. And Oti the Iceman and his microbiome, a 5,300-year-old relationship. So scientists find yeast in frozen mummy's gut, use it to make sourdough bread, and scientists reveal Oti the Iceman's dynamic microbiome world. So 5,300 years after his death, Oti the murdered Iceman's microbiome is still active. And Norwegian teen hired by Swedish crime group used by Iran planned UK murder is what London courts are saying and everything like that. And Trump endorses Albert Abelardo de la Espriella, a right-wing presidential candidate in Colombia. So Colombia's populist Bukele loving right looks like they're likely to win power, and the Colombian presidency goes to runoff election to get redefined relationships with the U.S. So definitely that's something that folks will be paying attention to. And Delhi's Melvia Nagar restaurant fire is something that people are talking about. At least 18 foreign nationals among 20 killed in the Delhi hotel fire that was taking place in that part of India. So fire tears through the hotel in India's capital in Delhi, killing at least 21 people as some jumped from windows. And the missing cruise ship passenger found dead on St. Kitts nearly a week after their disappearance. So, cruise ship passenger found dead on Caribbean island after vanishing during a hike. So, they did find that body now and everything like that. And new prime minister says Solomon Islands will review its secretive security treaty with China. And South Korea ruling party set for local election gains. Exit polls are showing in that area. So definitely lots going on in the world, and of course, a lot's going on here in the U.S. as well. I'll get ready to bring in Rick and see what he's got on his mind as well, and we'll see if Nick or others join us also on this show. But Karen Bass to face a runoff election amid tough challenge from Spencer Pratt. So it looks like the Kevin Bass has advanced to the runoff election for the Los Angeles mayor. So the race for California governor is deadlocked as primary results across the U.S. trickle in. But it does look like Karen Bass will be facing a runoff challenge and a tough challenge from Spencer Pratt. Bakersfield police in California responded to a hostage situation at Chase Bank. So bomb threat and hostage situation at Chase Bank building entered its ninth hour, and that was reported some 17 hours ago. So hopefully they've gotten that resolved. But they did say man takes hostage and threatens to bomb a bank in California, and this was reported only a few hours ago, and everything like that. But now we are seeing hopefully that some folks are being released and everything like in that space. Tech's favorite candidates fell short on California primary. So Matt Mahan concedes minutes after polls close in the California governor race. So it looks like some of these folks that were tech related are not doing that well in that particular race. And Democrats see the stars aligning in Iowa. So Trump endorsed Henson, secures Iowa Senate nomination as Democrats eye this GOP seat. So it looks like there might be a case where there could be some switchover. And as we reported yesterday, Donald Trump names William Pote acting intelligence chief, and Trump's pick for Iowa governor loses the GOP primary in an upset. So definitely a lot was going on in terms of these races and all in that space. And Donald Trump reportedly berates Benjamin Netanyahu over Lebanon. Trump confirms he called Netanyahu crazy as he says Israel is complicating peace talks with Iran. So definitely looks like they are not in the best of terms right now and everything like that. And Weiner and Chan will face off in the House race to succeed Nancy Pelosi. And George Santos is reported to prosecutors over suspicious Cauchy trades, according to what the AP is reporting, and all along those lines. So definitely lots going on. Former Interior Secretary Deb Haaland wins the Democratic nomination in New Mexico and everything like that. So lots going on in these political races and also in the world and everything. I did see that Putin was having his economic forum, and apparently the Ukrainians decided that was a good time to launch a drone attack, and they did hit St. Petersburg, where he is having his version of a Russian Davos conference and everything like that. So they did hit St. Petersburg during the first day of the conference, and we'll see how this impacts security at this conference, and if the conference maintains and goes on as planned with Putin meeting with some world leaders.
So polls in California have been closed for about 11 hours.
Right.
But only 57% of the vote has been counted. More than 40 is still out, and those votes will trickle in over the next week, because I think California law says your vote counts if you vote by mail and it's postmarked by election day.
Right.
So they give it another week. So this feeds into a bunch of bullshit conspiracy theories by Republicans, because generally in California, the mail-in votes tend to run a little bit more Democratic than the day of. I don't know. Anyway, the votes change a little bit over the week as more votes get counted. And the Republicans love, and conspiracy nuts love to say, well, it's just Democrats cheating, which it's not. It's that California is a very blue state. More than 60% of Californians will, if given a choice between a Republican and a Democrat, will vote for the Democrat.
Yeah. But so it looks like it's going to be Karen Bass against Pratt, and I know you talked about Pratt before and everything like that. So how do you think that this race is going to turn out?
So the deal is that Bass split the Democratic vote. LA is a very blue city.
Right.
But Bass, a lot of people are upset with Bass because of the fires and because we still have a shit ton of homeless on the street. Right. Though the number has dropped by, I don't know, I think 14% under her, but she promised to make it 100 anyway. She split the vote with another Democratic candidate, Nithya Raman. Mm-hmm. So Bass got like 36% of the vote, Raman got 20, Pratt got about 30. So in the runoff election between the top two candidates, which is going to be Pratt and Bass, Bass will pick up the majority of the Nithya Raman votes and will easily, pull 55, 58, maybe even 60% of the vote. then Pratt really doesn't have a chance.
Pratt doesn't stand a chance at all. Pratt
And
doesn't.
really, would you really want a reality star with no political experience running the city?
Well, as you were saying that, and I know this is silly on my part and everything, but I'm also not sure that I want a candidate that is named after one of the most popular dishes if you are in economic turmoil and everything like that. Because I think you just said that the other candidate's name was Rahman, and when I think of
Ramen,
Rahman,
Nadir Ramen, yeah,
I think of Rahman noodles.
yeah. I mean, she's a fairly controversial candidate among people who follow city and state government. So, my issue with her is she ran like one main campaign ad and she wore gaucho pants, and I'm like, why? You remember gauchos? You were probably in high school when
Yes,
gauchos were semi-popular.
yes,
There are
they were.
these big flared bell-bottom pants that stop just below your knee, and I always found them just an awful look, right?
Well, there was a lot of bad looks during that time and everything. I also remember flannel shirts and a couple of other things that were popular because we're talking about the same era as the disco era. So there was a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, I was guilty of a bunch of disco era fashion sins. I had platform shoes that I literally wore to the disco. Um, you know, I had
Did you have the fish shoes? That's what I want to know. Did you have
no,
the
were the ones that where you had an actual live goldfish in the heel. No,
yes?
but
Yeah, I never had those either. But there are people that had them. Kimberly's joining. Let's see what she's got on her mind and what news stories we've got going on in the world, in her world, and everything like that. We're just talking about the candidacies in California and some of the world things going on. Apparently, there was a drone attack in Ukraine and everything like that. So, what's happening that you're following in the news and everything like that, Kim?
I've just been following, like the prosecutor who lied and redacted all of the information he submitted to court to protect ICE instead of, submitting the truth and evidence of truth. I've just been kind of following that kind of stuff because I feel like that is what has happened to our society. And all of these Republicans and people who support Trump and ICE think that they can get away with just blatantly lying. And these are people who are sworn in to do what is right for the people and to be honest and truthful, and this is how they're treating our justice system. And I think that they all need to be fired. Should be no immunity whatsoever for anyone when they intentionally do something like this. Now, if he accidentally submitted wrong evidence because somebody prepared it wrong and it was accidentally submitted wrong, you know what? Immunity, fine. But to intentionally lie, a Justice Department prosecutor intentionally lying, we don't need that in this country. That needs to be removed. So those are the kind of things that I have been trying to stay up to date on, and also the the what I call the Hunger Games stage that Trump is putting on the White House lawn. I mean, he's destroyed the lawn, which will never be repaired until he leaves the office, for a ballroom that should never have been even tried to be built. You don't demo something and then hope to raise the money to build it. And that shows not just poor leadership, but poor business skills. But, now we have this big, huge stage, what I call the Hunger Games stage, or gladiator Coliseum type thing. But as far as I can say is Trump has that big arch now. But those are the things. And then, of course, like everyone else, I'm wondering what's going to go on with the war. The strait, is it going to be opened or closed? But, the state that our country is in is scary. It's not even uncertainty, it's downhill. Yes, Rick.
So I want to go back to Ukraine for a sec. So Russia bombarded Kyiv
Right.
on May 24th and then again on the night of June 2nd. And the reason the attacks are more than a week apart is Russia is running short of missiles. So they ration them. They hit one city, which is Kyiv, their main city, and they only hit it about once a week because they don't have enough missiles left to do it every night. So it's terrifying, and the missiles come through. I think on June 2nd, the missiles killed 13 people. But, Russia has depleted a lot of its. Now, they can keep going for another 2 years. They can keep throwing people into the meat grinder, where, Ukraine is killing 35 and wounding 35,000 Russian soldiers every month using drones. You can't run from drones. So 35,000, which equals more than 400,000 a year, and Kyiv wants to raise that number up to 50,000. And Kyiv makes 3 million drones a year.
But you can't beat intelligence. Eventually, it will catch up with you, and the passion of the people in Ukraine. At the end of the day, passion and intelligence will overcome strength and power. I mean, we were taught this in our books and in history. Ukraine has a high intelligence level. They build some of the best war weapons in the world, and that's why America made a deal with them to stop making them years ago, but our promise to them we failed to keep. I mean, we should be the ones at the blunt.
Okay.
But because we convinced them to stop making these weapons, and we convinced them by saying we would stand behind them if anyone attacked them, and then we didn't. And so, I mean, they trusted us. They trusted us, and they said, okay, but here's the thing. Now we see what they're capable of. And there is no doubt in my mind that they're not going to start supplying Iran with these weapons of destruction. And drones are the weapon of destruction for the future.
Well,
I don't think robots are, because you can blow up a robot pretty easy, but it's hard.
Iran is one of the countries that's supplying Russia with electronics for their drones. So here's an article from Drudge, from the Financial Post, which says that Iran is more likely to be developing nuclear weapons now than it was before we started attacking Iran, according to the United Nations agency that is in charge of watching Iran's nuclear stockpile. So before, remember back in July of last year, Trump claimed he blew up all of Iran's enriched uranium.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before that, Iran was subject to weekly inspection from the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, to make sure that they weren't making bomb-grade uranium.
Right.
But for the past, 10 months, that supervision has been gone. And with the latest, our war on Iran, that has encouraged Iran to maybe be more aggressive in pursuing nuclear weapons.
The U.S. has shown that they have no integrity whatsoever to abide by anything, because they blew up the little girls' school. And as far as I'm concerned, that was intentional. That was the first strike at an attempt of a war. I think it's disgusting, filthy, and the U.S. should have to pay for that.
I don't think it was intentional,
should
but
sue
it was.
U.S.
I don't think it was intentional.
I do.
It was bad intel. That building, the school building, was in a group of Republican Guard buildings, and it used to be a Republican Guard building. But Trump fired the part of the military that is responsible for updating targets. So they were using old intel, and they blew up for the past, I don't know how many years, 5 years, 8 years. That's been a school, but they were using intel that said it was still Republican Guard.
That's a pathetic excuse, and this happens under Trump all the time, and it's always not his fault because, oh, well, I fired them. I promised that I would hire back the pandemic team if we have a pandemic, but we never had a pandemic, did we? No, this goes beyond gross negligence. I think that this is murder at the highest level and should be tried that way. Because when you do gross negligence at what you're talking about, they just fired the people who could get the. But you know what? Using that excuse, that's not good. I'm sorry. There is no excuse. No excuse. But then they try to cover it up. Then they go, oh, it wasn't our bombs. It wasn't our, yeah, it was. You know what? We are the highest level of intelligence as we proclaim. We proclaim to have the highest level of intelligence. We have bombs that can strike the gnat off of Trump's nose if we wanted it to. And we sit there and go, oh, we didn't mean to hit that school. You did mean to hit that school. You may not have known that it was a school, but you did mean to strike that building.
Yeah, they did. But so you said, I see the headline down here. It says 3,000 protesters killed. I thought it was 30,000. Or is it just...
Well, they admit to 3,000. It may have been 30,000, but as we have problems getting accurate information from both sides.
Well, they're lying. It was at least 10 times as many people.
And you might be right. But see, this is the problem with today is getting accurate. And
speaking of getting accurate numbers and everything like that, Nick, because I was going to actually bring back to Dr. Pat Messer what he was talking about. By the way, Kim, you'll be glad to know before I get to the serious question that apparently, and I know that even when Zach was here, he would oftentimes say that women are the strongest sex and everything like that. And apparently, we all start off as women and then we become man later. So that's what Dr. Pat Messer was saying, that everybody that has ever been inseminated, they started off as a woman, and then the chromosomes all come together, and then that's when you decide whether you're a man or a woman and everything. But we all start off as women, is what Dr. Pat Messer was saying. But before I get to that, and you can answer
measuring strength is various different elements and what you want. Do you want to lift a 3,000-pound rock, or do you want to move it? And a highly intelligent person will be able to move it without utilizing the physical strength that most people tend to have. So, you can, but women, I think we have to use our intellect, which makes us appear stronger. We have to have more courage than men to go out there and do things, knowing the risk that we could be attacked, beaten by somebody bigger than us. So yeah, I don't know if I call it, it depends on what you call strength. And I think women have a lot of strength. We give birth. If you study different elements of history, one of my favorite stories is when the king had destroyed an area, and he felt sorry for the women that were there. And he said, you know what, whatever you can carry on your backs out of this place that I have taken over, you may keep. And they each walked over and took their husbands and carried their husbands on their back out of the city. Wow. And the king was so moved by the love, but the strength that these women had. They didn't carry food. They didn't carry their clothes. They carried their husbands. And that says a lot. A man wouldn't have done that. I'm just telling you right now, I don't know of any man that would have walked over and picked up his wife and carried her out. I'm sorry. They would have walked over and picked up weapons, tools, but I'll guarantee you they would not have done that. So.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, Rick, just really quickly, the other medical story that
Where'd
was
Nick go?
interesting because we talked there earlier about there being a down there being low numbers of coronavirus or the whole notion of that. But I did see that the norovirus has upticked and everything like that. I didn't know your thoughts around that because I know that the coronavirus apparently is on a low level, but I did see yesterday that the norovirus is on an uptick and everything like that. So,
Norovirus, I think, is pretty contagious.
Yeah.
So let's take a look here. I've always wanted to go on a cruise where they have norovirus because then you get a free cruise, right? That everybody gets sick, that it's chaos in the halls of the ship, but then they're like, we're sorry, but we'll make it up to you. So AI says norovirus levels remain high across much of the U.S. With high, the way we measure viruses now is we look at sewage. We put sewage into some kind of machine that measures the levels of various viruses that people poop out. So it's high in the Northeast and Midwest. It's medium in the West and South.
okay.
Though the total number of outbreaks remains within normal yearly averages. And norovirus isn't going to kill you. It'll make you barf a lot. It'll give you diarrhea. It'll make you feel like crap, but it won't make you dead.
It's probably one of those viruses that if you don't stay on top of it and hydrate yourself and maintain it, it can kill you, because we've had viruses that should not be deadly but do kill people. But the Ebola spread is something that's concerning to me, because, the fatality rate of the Ebola virus is huge, and they know how to contain it, but why they don't use the skill sets to contain it is, I don't understand. I don't understand why they don't step up to the plate and do what they have done before to contain it and prevent the fatalities. And they can, but they choose not to. But again, these are
all right. Well, there's the outbreak is ongoing. And here's AI says containment is difficult because there's no vaccine for this strain, because there's a civil war going on in the area with armed rebel groups running around.
It spreads fast. It's detectable soon. It doesn't take long.
Also, burial practices that. When somebody dies of Ebola, their entire body is contagious because it's transmitted through blood, and you basically melt when you have Ebola. Blood starts coming out all over you. So
now, you're not supposed to bury the body. The bodies are supposed to be put into containment, because that will go into the aqua filters, according to some research.
But the families of the dead, they wanted to treat the body traditionally, and so they attack the Ebola center. I think one center got burned.
But let me, and I don't know enough about it, but maybe it's something we can learn. Is does it like I'm not going to say but evaporate, but like if it's in a person and that person dies and their body deteriorates, does it stay or does it eventually dissipate? And
we can look it up.
But that would be I love this. Rick is our Alexa. I love it.
Stuff and everything like that. Wow.
But I'm gonna do a hey Rick at home. The thing is that, and that's something.
Okay, so Ebola can stay infectious in a dead body for up to 7 days.
That's it.
About a week.
Wow.
Viruses aren't alive, right? Bacteria is alive. Viruses are little chunks of genetic information that just kind of hitchhike into your body and kidnap the cellular mechanism. So it's hard to kill a virus because a virus was never alive in the first place. You have to hit it with something that will disrupt it, destroy it.
I did watch the announcement the Republicans and Kennedy made the other day about their progress in Lyme research and doing whatever they are doing with Lyme disease right now. And they apparently have made some kind of progress with that. But I'm they are so against vaccines and things like that. I can't imagine what they've discovered in Lyme that's going to protect people if it's not a vaccine. But they've been making big announcements.
Lyme disease is one of those diseases that people, it took decades for Lyme to be, I think, recognized as a legitimate thing, where people would go in with these vague complaints and doctors would discount what they were saying. Now they have actual diagnostics, some technology that will, definitely indicate when you have it. So RFK Jr., as we know, is a lunatic. However, he has personal history with Lyme disease. He's always out in the woods messing around. He says that he had Lyme gives you a bullseye rash at the point where you're infected. He said that he had this rash after removing 30 ticks from himself in the 1980s. Who knows what crazy crap he was doing to end up covered with 30 ticks. And then, of course, Kennedy is crazy. He thinks that Lyme might be a bioweapon engineered by the U.S. government in a military lab during the Cold War. So maybe we'll get some improved diagnostics because RFK's lunacy lines up with.
But they are making progress. There's something else I got to witness yesterday. This was exciting. I don't know how many of you know, but I went through a full cabbage heart surgery almost a year ago, this month, a year ago. And I had to go back to the cardio yesterday for some other just research. And they have a new tool now, and it's pretty phenomenal. And it's like a new toy to them, and like they got to use it on everybody. He just opened it up yesterday, so I got to be his, I guess.
What does it do?
So it's so cool. So they have stethoscopes, right? Well, the stethoscope now in the head of it has an EKG built in it. And I don't know that it's all like very new, but hospital grade EKG is now developed. So you can buy these, online, but they're not like the hospital grade. But he literally did, checked my heart and did an EKG at the same time. So know all of these leads.
Yeah, when you get an EKG, they put like
no machine over here printing things out. He gets a digital reading on the head of the stethoscope. It is so cool. It is so cool. I mean, I've had my share of EKGs all through rehab. They would do an EKG when you walked in and when you left 3 days a week. So, and it's not that big of a deal to me, right? It was just part of the healing process. But the stethoscope was pretty cool. To see that kind of progress is nice. So.
Speaking of which, we got folks from other parts of the world, so I want to hear their thoughts. Sasha, I know that earlier today I was mentioning that it looks like Putin was having a conference for his version of Davos, but the Ukrainian forces launched a drone attack and hit St. Petersburg on the first day of this conference that he's having. And I'm not sure, maybe he's inviting the folks of BRICS to this conference, but it sounds like it's supposed to be an economic conference with various leaders of the world that are fans of Putin, or at least if they're not fans, they want to hear his thoughts around economics, because they're calling it Putin's Davos and everything like that. But I did see Ukraine launch an attack and hit St. Petersburg on the first day of the conference. I was just wondering your thoughts around the Ukrainian drones hitting this popular city on the first day of this particular conference.
Few things. Number one, there was a devastated attack on Ukraine from Russia, killing a lot of people. Really, we're talking about tens of dead and hundreds of wounded people. So this was a retaliation for this horrible terrorist attack. Number two, this Russian economic forums, they attended not only by BRIC countries. You'll be surprised that you will find there a lot of American and European businessmen trying to find something, opportunities or whatever else it is. Normally they are losers in their own countries who cannot get anything going for themselves. So they're trying to going out there and find some connections and some opportunities and so on. There are a lot of those. Every year I'm getting information about who attending these forums. Trust me, there are a lot of Americans, actually more than Europeans. They're going to the shows and they hope they will find some connections, and that connection will bring them close to Trump, and Trump will support this whatever business they're trying to launch and so on. This is all phony, but anyway, that's it. Now about Ukrainians' drones, they are miles ahead from Russian prototypes. And it's not just drones themselves, it's all the technology, it's a strategy of fighting 21st century war when all those drones have artificial intelligence and they can function together without any commands from the drone operators. They are now learn how to coordinate themselves, their attacks on enemies, and they're being trained which targets to destroy first and so on. So it's very, very sophisticated. That's why Russians stopped any advancements on the front lines, because it's becoming impossible. The second you moved or your machinery, tanks or whatever moves, it's being destroyed instantly by these swamps of drones. So there's no progress on the front lines. Russians are still losing about 1,000 people a day, and it would be nice to get it over 2,000, but it will take some time. It will get there.
So there's it's an arms race to make more and more unstoppable drones, and Russia has made advances in jamming radio signals to drones. If you can't get your signal to your drone, you can't use it effectively. So Ukraine has switched to fiber optic control, which is you put up a drone, it's got a spool, a very thin fiber optic cable that can be as long as 30 miles, 40 miles. It's like a kite that just plays out like miles and miles of cable, so you can't jam that drone because it's controlled directly via the cable.
Well, but the new technology, artificial intelligence, is actually making the drones unable to function absolutely without command from the drone operators. And they communicating between themselves, they are programmed, and actually one of the biggest companies who are supporting Ukraine and helps them, it's a company with the name Palantir, and which is a very curious situation, because Palantir has a lot of government, Pentagon contracts, and so on. At the same time, they're a big help to Ukraine. How it all can work all together, it's hard to say, but that's what happened.
It makes a lot of sense. Hey, Dr. Sharif, also want to hear from him as well. What's going on in your part of the world? Because we don't hear enough from Bangladesh. So what's happening in your part of the world? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Thank you for your questions. First thing, Bangladesh has heat wave. Now the temperature is very high. So I think that As in North America, there is a debate and other things. I think Donald Trump do not like about climate change and so on, but it's heavily happening right now in South Asia, in Bangladesh. I see many of the people become sick because of a heat wave and so on. And secondly, unemployment. What I see this economical barrier like this tariff, immigrations, and all kind of challenges. Also, this war in between Iran and USA and this Palestine, Israel. Israel also doing some kind of war also with this Lebanon right now. So it's look like there are a lot of challenges, lot of uh, things happening in Asia, in Middle East. So it's create very negative impact. Yes, country like Bangladesh people have a core focus on microfinance. Bangladesh people is hardworking, consistent, transparent, so they may create their own economic versions of survivals. But this is very challenging moment. On the other hand, Kimberly asked for discuss some point about women leaderships. I really like it. My PhD thesis based on glass ceiling factor, women leaderships. Even in my research, I identify woman has more empathy and sympathy, and woman has ability to support the society, support family, as well as support corporation. Even if when they come to the power as a politician, they perform well. So hope to see is women leaders or women president in the near future in USA. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that and everything.
Thank you for sharing that, Sharif. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely. Toby, what you got going on in your world and everything like that? I know you were talking about your research around the ticks and everything like that, but what else have you got going on in your world?
I mean, nothing much really. Just working as always. But yeah, in terms of the RFK thing, to reach back to that, only thing RFK is doing is just spreading more conspiracies about Lyme. That's all he's really doing.
Yeah, I think spreading fear is a good one. But Jacoby, share about your progress of your water experiment that you're doing. I get into watching your post on that. That's pretty cool.
So, I mean, it's not really an experiment. It's more so just watching the water enter into the bucket and evaporate out of the bucket. So it's just neat day over day to see how much water evaporates, how fast it evaporates. If the water evaporates now because it looks like there is algae growing, we'll see what happens with that. So it's just more so just a day-to-day watch of a bucket that has some water in it.
That's cool to watch. I mean, it is a cool experiment. If I had something like that going, though, it would have all kinds of mold and stuff growing out of it. So something weird would be growing out of it. I enjoy watching yours, though. It's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing it.
You got that going on, and then let's go. The video camp that'll be starting today, guys. So definitely that'll start on next week and everything like that. So he's already got some messages going out because that'll be taking place where the kids will get a chance to get some experience in video games and other things. And looking forward to that. So that'll start on the 10th, I believe. And we've got 2 dates in June, and then 2 dates in July, and 2 dates in August, from what I saw from my coworkers at that particular location. So looking forward to seeing how that plays out and everything like that. What else are you seeing in the news, Rick, and everything like that? I know you're over there looking at Drudge and seeing what other craziness that Trump is up to.
Well, as I said, the UN Nuclear Inspection Agency for the past 11 months hasn't been able to do any inspection. Before that, they were doing hundreds of inspections a year, at least weekly. And this had been going on for a decade since Obama negotiated an inspection deal. But Trump shut it all down. He got rid of the deal, though inspectors were still going in, but not since Trump bombed Iran in July of last year. So there was a confidential 119-page report was, according to people who've seen it, says that we have no idea what they're doing now and where the nuclear stuff is.
That was, I mean, honestly, that's all Trump. He created this issue.
Yeah, I mean, the Obama deal, Republicans like to say it wasn't working. It actually worked pretty well. And Republicans like to say that Obama gave Iran billions of dollars. No, Obama unlocked, Iran has oil income. A lot of that, billions of dollars of that income was locked up while this deal was as part of sanctions, while the deal was being negotiated. After the deal was in place, Obama released some of those frozen funds. We didn't give them our money. We let them have some of their own money. And this compares to now, some of the numbers being floated by Trump is that we're going to give them $300 billion, 200 times as much as was released by Obama. But,
Hold on a second. We got our traveling correspondent, because I know from a while and following his Facebook that he's been in Louisville. I think he's been in Frankfurt, and his job has got him traveling the world and everything like that, or at least traveling.
Where are you now, Steve? Where are you now? I've been watching.
Give me 1 second, guys. I've been I just got off a plane. I took a new role in my firm, so we don't have as much flexibility anymore. But I've been traveling and working with all the Democratic governors, some of my clients, and so we had a meeting yesterday with Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky. So that's where I was, and then I went up to Massachusetts. I'm going to be meeting Maura Healey and Tim Walz from Minnesota. Klobuchar is running, so it's kind of fun. That's why I'm traveling around the country, which is exciting. And the town of Morrisville has asked me to present the All-America City presentation because they say I'm the best salesman in Morrisville history, even though I lost the primary. So to be the commissioner. So things are going good. I'm putting politics behind me now. I've decided after long consideration with my family that I don't think I'm ever going to run for office again. I like being in this new role where I'm kind of a kingmaker, and but that's where I've been. And kind of interesting to see this presidential, even though it's early, I think Beshear is definitely running. He's coming here to North Carolina, so I'm going to invite some of you to an event that I'm hosting for him probably next month. I know Newsom is running, Buttigieg is running, Cory Booker, Bernie, Kamala Harris is running. Most likely, it's going to be a really crowded primary. And my concern is what happened to me at the county level, I think could happen to Beshear in the primary. I still give Kamala Harris probably the best chance of winning just because of the name recognition. But unfortunately, I believe that if she does run, she probably will not win the general election. So I hope the Democrats can really rally behind someone. Beshear, I think, can win. The other thing that I'm finding out from Republican side as I'm going to Washington is that J.D. Vance will not be running for president, that he's going to be stepping down. Apparently, his wife doesn't want him to run again. And I think Marco Rubio is going to be anointed as the nominee. And in that situation, there's not going to be any Republicans running against Rubio. So he's going to have the chance of getting a lot of money, consolidating, making history, being the first Cuban American son of immigrants from Cuba, which I think could be historic for them. So anyway, I didn't mean to go over my time here.
No,
I just wanted to chime in and tell you hi, and I'm looking forward to being back more frequently now that I'm out of politics.
Hey, Steve, just really quickly, as you've been traveling the country, what has been your gaze on, or your gauge on the kind of like the public opinion? Because I know you're like me, you go out and you talk to people in general. So what is the kind of concern of the common American in, say, Kentucky and Massachusetts and the places that you have been visiting?
That's a great question. A common concern that I'm seeing across the country is rising costs, housing costs, gas prices, tuition for kids in school or colleges. There's a good book I would recommend to everyone by Ezra Klein called Abundance. a really good book about kind of supply chain economics, infrastructure, why things are slowing down, and consistently I see it's getting. I'm also seeing downtowns in certain areas not as vibrant as they used to be. You look at downtown Louisville; it's a 900,000 city. There's not a lot of people out on the streets. Very quiet. Same thing in Washington D.C. DuPont Circle, place like that. Not as bustling as it used to be because when you have to pay so much for food and people are less making money. So that's what I'm seeing. And so I think people are also tired of the division and the nastiness of politics. But the other thing we're seeing, though, is that they've come to an agreement that they're going to be led by the extremes of their parties. So, you look in North Carolina where Phil Berger lost. I had a meeting with the president of the Senate in Kentucky, Robert Steves, and he was amazed that Phil Berger lost. Right? You're seeing Cornyn in Texas lose. You're seeing people from the right being primaried, and then you're seeing people from the left being primaried. And so what happens is America gets, marginalized, and I think people are getting really tired of it. So I think that I'll end with this. I think if the Democrats are going to win the White House again, I'm pretty sure they're going to win these elections, but they've got to get around a candidate that can talk about the issues, economics, putting money on the table, infrastructure. These social issues just do not work. In North Carolina, you can win in Wake County on LGBT or transgender issues or gender issues with lots of protests and rallies and No Kings rallies. But we have to remember that there's only 14 Democratic governors in the United States. The rest are Republican. And that means that these social issues will not work to flip the electoral map. So I certainly hope that the DNC is really considering this as they decide who the nominee of their party is for the presidency. Because quite frankly, if it's not Andy Bashir, I think we all better get used to the words of President Marco Rubio, because it will happen.
Just to put back on you,
I don't think
Steve,
Marco
just really-
has the weight
Just
to carry to become president.
But
I
it
think
doesn't
he's
matter,
too big of a
Kimberly.
flip-flop.
He'll beat the liberal progressive left.
so just to push back a little bit, I don't
I
think.
wouldn't mind him being in the
Just-
running because I think he'll lose.
Well, just to push back a little bit, the social issues aren't a thing that the DNC or even the Democratic Party are pushing. What it is that the Republican Party has been able to create that narrative, and that's what the Republican Party has done. What the DNC and the Democratic Party need to be able to do is to learn how to control and push back on the narrative that gets pushed. Because, for example, in 2024, everybody said that they hated the women playing, the boys playing in the women's sports. The DNC never pushed that. The transgender issues, the DNC, Kamala Harris never pushed that. What it was Donald Trump took money out of the whole economic side. He could not win on the economic issues. What they were able to win on is creating a narrative around the social issues. It's the same thing they've done for umpteen years. It's the redoing of the actual Southern strategy. So if you're able to control the narrative on those social issues, that's what the Democratic Party needs to do, because they don't need to set, you're right. They need to focus on kitchen table issues heavily.
Well, I'll give you an example. When they asked James Tallarico, who's running for governor of Texas, I think, what was the most burning issue that kept him up at night? He said, I worry about the transgender children. That's all I worry about. Now, they asked Governor Beshear about that on Meet the Press. But for a Democratic nominee for the governor of a state, the state that is his only concern, to me, flags,
So
complete
here's a
red
question.
flags.
I don't think that was
Nobody in
Tallarico.
America cares about
That-
it. Toby.
That wasn't Tallarico.
That's the narrative.
I don't
That's
think
the
that was
narrative.
Tallarico.
It wasn't Tallarico, but that's the narrative that gets pushed. Because if
But
you
why
take,
would he
for-
say that
wait,
to the
real
press?
quick,
Why would his people tell him to say that
But
if he's running
really
to be chief
quickly,
executive officer of
really-
Texas?
really quickly, Steve.
When did he say it? Did he backtrack? Because he's been backtracking again.
Yeah, but you
that-
can't say things and backtrack. How
but
can you be a
this-
governor if you backtrack on
this
everything that you
is-
say?
This is exactly what I'm talking about. One thing getting said at one interview, and it wasn't Tallarico, but one thing that's getting said at one interview at one little time, and then he's saying all this other economic stuff and all these kitchen table issues. We forget about that. We, as what you're even bringing up now, you're pigeonholing on that one piece. He has not pushed that in any of his campaign ads, in any of his debate performances, and so on and so forth. You're taking that one piece and running with it. It's the same thing that happened to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was asked a question about transgender issues, and then she answered that question at one time.
I know we're running out of time, but I would.
I want to comment. They did say that Tallarico made that comment, but that's not what he said. When he was running for governor, what he said is that he loved the transgender children who showed up to his campaign speech that he was having yesterday, like as if it were yesterday, but, and he said he appreciates them and he loves all of them because they are all a child of God. He didn't say that's the one thing he worries about. So again, you have the Republicans twisting things,
and that's my point,
and casting fire on them, and they're all, honestly, I believe everything a Republican doesn't say. That's where I'm at in life.
That exactly is my point, is because what the Republican party does is they take exactly that one thing. They take that one nugget that is take it out of context and ride.
It's working, Jacoby. It's working.
It's working. You're right. It's working.
Listen to what I'm saying.
We can criticize Trump all we want. He's focused. He's on message. He turns his base out. Okay, this guy knows what he's doing.
I'm not saying anything about Bashir. What I'm saying is Trump. Steve, the thing is, we say all these things about Tallarico. We say all these things about Kamala Harris. He's turning his base out, acting as if he's sucking a penis on a stage, and we say nothing about it. We go on and on about Kamala Harris. That's my point. They control the narrative.
I start asking questions.
Their narrative.
Right. Start asking questions. Where's the Doge check? Where's the Trump phone?
Where's the Doge check?
Where's the Doge check? We need to start hitting the ball strategically, because
here's what I would say.
Republicans are coached on what to say. All of them, right down to the guy living next door. He is coached on what to say. So I just look at him and go, "Where's my Doge check? Where's my Doge check?"
Well, I'm going to come back on probably on Monday, because Friday I'm going on Sasha's show. But I tell you, I think. And we want to hear from Rick Rosen on this next week, because I know we're running out of time. But I know the point I'm trying to make is right. I think if the Democrats get put on those, if they put a target on their back, deflect from the social issues and focus on economic issues, talk about the economy, talk about how you. And here I'm going to end with this. Here's the problem. Okay, in the 90s, throughout most of my life, the Democratic Party was the party of the working people of this country. In 1992, a man by the name of Bill Clinton came and flipped it around, said it was the economy stupid, and was able to win the presidency of the United States against an incumbent Republican, an elitist, George H.W. Bush from the Bush dynasty. Now it's flipped. And regardless of all the craziness, the working people of this country are looking to the Republican Party as the future. Young people at NC State here in Raleigh, 2 out of every 3 students are going Republican, my son tells me. Every single young kid at our universities believes that Donald Trump's party is the party of the future. And when I ask them why, they say, because I see Bernie Sanders on TV. I see someone that looks older than my grandfather, who has no business running for president, still being the voice of the party, who's still considering a run for the White House. Okay, so this is the problem that the Democrats have. And I'm telling you, this is the last chance they have to win the presidency. If they do not win the presidency this time, the Democratic Party in this country is finished.
But it's what I'm saying is,
did any of y'all watch the commencement at, I think it's at UNC Chapel Hill, where the girl got to speak, and they've kind of forced her to speak, and then she chose to speak about ICE and how dangerous it is and how it has taken away
they
the
withheld
freedom and the
her
rights of the
diploma back.
people. And they tried to pull her off stage while she was speaking. Did
So-
anyone see that?
Yeah, that was the one that withheld the diploma. But Steve, my
It's
point
conservative.
is,
I know.
What my
Lee
point
Roberts.
is, it's taking exactly what you're stating. Yes, the people across the populace itself is looking for change and looking for youth. The populace itself is right now what you're stating about. Yes, they're looking to the Republican Party. Do you know it's not because they're saying they're youthful and all this? It's because they're saying they're controlling the message. And the message is, if we run with what their message is, we lose. And that's the problem. Because what gets put out there, we take and we try and defend. We're always put on defense. If you're always on defense, you're always going to lose. So until we go on offense, until the Democrat Party goes on offense and creates a message and actually sticks something, a bumper sticker, something quick in the sell, which is what Clinton did. The economy stupid. That was bumper sticker material. And it was not something that people had to get into the nuance and tell you all this about and elaborate on. No, give me something simple. Give me something easy and ride
Clinton
with
could
it.
talk to the
And you
guy
can talk
at the
about
bar.
they don't talk about social issues.
No.
The RNC tells you that they're talking about social issues. The RNC then rides with that. Then the Democrat Party goes and defends that. And then it becomes a whole complicated issue of this isn't what I said. No, you have to be on offense. That honestly is what started Kamala Harris. That put Donald Trump on defense. And not until the assassination attempts did people turn off what Donald Trump was saying. And then the Democrat Party didn't want to talk about all the evilness that he said, didn't want to talk about anything. It was always, okay, well, not really. That's not what I really said. That's where we fell. That's where the DNC fell. So until you're back on offense, you're going to lose.
Kimberly, you look great.
Yeah,
Everyone looks great. I look forward to seeing
Yeah, we're
everybody.
going to wrap up and everything
We'll
like
bring
that.
this up tomorrow. Until then,
Yeah, we'll
stay
bring
Good
more
stuff,
of it up.
guys. I
and
love it. I
hopefully
love
we'll
the fire.
Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully we'll see you. Steve, glad to see you. And I do agree with you about Abundance. It is a great book. We actually had him speak at Hayti about several months ago and everything like that. So Ezra Klein was actually there at Hayti several months back promoting
Jody,
that
can you
book.
get us into a Canes game? I want to go to a Canes game. Can you get us in?
Who?
I don't have money like that.
I don't have that
Yeah,
kind of
I
money, what we can do is maybe get together and see if we can all go together. So
Okay, I'd love to go. Yeah, the
Take care.
The booth that I used to go to, they canceled the booth. They're not using that anymore, so I can't.
Cool.
It's
Well,
fun
I
to
know
be
we get
nobody
ready
now. I'm nobody. I'm not a VIP anymore, man. I'm in the nosebleeds. But they can't get rid of Steve Rao.
We'll see if we can't go. The next game is Thursday. They did lose that heartbreaker yesterday, 5-4. The next home game is on tomorrow, and hopefully they'll manage to get to the fifth game. Because if they lose the game tomorrow, then they could be in trouble going to Vegas. Because Vegas can be hard in their home front and everything. But we'll see how it all plays out, and hopefully they can
I know.
pull off the victory tomorrow.
All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
All right.
Or next week.